Everybody, welcome to a delayed edition of the Game Addicted Show. If you're on the YouTubes, you might have seen that I didn't post a video last week. Um, I actually did stream that week 5 video. What happened is I spent an hour talking about college football, doing some top notch breakdowns of each team. And when I got towards the end, finish off my stream, I discover the microphone was turned off. So I had to go in the next day with just being burnt, not having the energy, put a crap stream, just covering the same stuff in 30 minutes. Wasn't really happy about it, so I'm like, I'm not even gonna bother putting that on YouTube. So, but we're back today. Feel great about this, and I thought, okay, let's jump to week 6, and this will be on the YouTube. So, if you are watching this on the YouTubes, make sure to give me a follow on Twitch. That is where I plan to really grow my platform. I think that's the best place for this, where we could just have open discussions live about college with different teams. We could break down why a team's the best, why the worst, going through the numbers, and really having fun with this. So check me out. And if you're watching this on Twitch, if you miss any part of this, you could go back and watch it on my YouTube channel. I always dump it on there. But, within 14 days also, I have it available on here. But without further ado, so much has happened. Let's get into week 6. I'm super excited about this because I always say about week 6 is when you finally start getting some really accurate rankings. And looking at them today, they're getting pretty close. I think we're maybe one more week away from like really getting this down. But I think there's enough data for a lot of these teams where I feel pretty confident on its accuracy. There's a few stragglers, few teams that may surprise you being on here, but for the most part, you're gonna see that this is starting to look more or less where teams really should be. So let's jump into it. Going in at number 25, a team that's gonna surprise you a lot being this low. That's with Oregon. Oregon. Why would you drop so much? Why? First of all, Oregon. Why would the heck would you lose to Stanford? You had it. You had everything you needed to go into the college football playoffs. The Pac-12 was ready to make its reappearance, and with UCLA losing to Arizona State and Oregon losing this game, I mean, Oregon still has technically a chance to climb the polls. But looking at these numbers here, and looking at how weak the Pac-12 is this year, it's a hard climb up. So dissecting Oregon, why would the jump be so drastic for Oregon going from, I forgot where they were last week on here. I knew they were like top 10. And you know what? One thing I do want to add to this dashboard is having the previous placements of the rankings and just kind of showing a chart of going up, up and down, like how teams are moving. So some of us really implement, but that's neither here nor there. I'll work on that. I think you guys might enjoy having a chart like that. But what that one loss, let's dissect it. So Stanford, not bad when it comes to their VPI ranking. They're actually net positive. They're 8.55. So really, essentially half of where Stanford's at. So they're not a terrible team. Actually, looking to the Pac-12, Stanford is ranked 44. Jump to UCLA, 41. All right, we can still jump back to 25 in VPI rankings here, but focus on Stanford. Stanford has a solid ranking. The strength of schedule is really tough. Because they've played UCLA, they've played Oregon, Kansas State, surprising some people. USC isn't doing too bad on here. Yeah, 56 on here, but because the strength of schedule is so tough, that's why even with a 3-2 record on our VPI rankings, they're ranked number 44. That loss isn't a killer. It still puts Oregon in the top 25. But dissecting Oregon's strength of schedule, solid. Mid-tier, a little bit on the upper half of the mid-tier, ranked 62. Strength production, those teams, again, a little on the back end of mid-tier, but it's mid-tier. So middle of the road. And looking at this, really, you might be saying, well, they played Ohio State. And yeah, that's a huge that's a huge game to win. But also look at and also Fresno State, another great game to win. But looking at this, let me. Sorry, I'm already messing this up. Wasn't supposed to click there. Um, Looking at this, what's really hurting Oregon is playing Division 2 team, and then playing Arizona. And Arizona, when you know it, out of 130 schools, they're the worst ranked school in the nation. They lost to Division 2 school. They lost San Diego State. They're an absolute mess. So even worse than UConn. Could you believe it? I kept on saying it. I don't know if last week they were the worst, but definitely with this loss, um, they're officially the worst school in college football right now. So if you're breaking that Oregon schedule, yeah, these numbers make sense because, yeah, half their schedule, playing Fresno State, Stanford, and Ohio State specifically, makes it very tough. But the other half, specifically those two games against a Division 2 school in Arizona, make it extremely weak. And remember, I treat FCS schools as the worst ranked team. So if I didn't have this here, you're playing basically 130, 131. Even though there's only 130 teams, we're adding the division. All FCS schools, we treat them the same as the worst ranked team is 131. So yeah, that's why everything here, these numbers, strength schedule, strength production, all middle of the road. That's why that loss to Stanford really hurts them, drops them down 25. Because not that the Stanford loss was bad, but because if you have that loss and you're splitting your schedule, you have a very mediocre strength of production, strength of schedule. Just looking at those four teams with Fresno State, Ohio State, Division 2 school, and Arizona. So that's your explanation on why why Oregon had such a massive drop in the rankings. So yeah, that's enough of Oregon. It's a quick mention UCLA because we're on the Pac-12. Oh, here's another thing. Oregon in our VPI rankings is the only top 25 school on here. I know that for the Pac-12, was it? Let me look here. I think Arizona State, is the only other one. So they have two. But yeah, as far as VPI rankings, we're saying the Pac-12 was. It hurts me saying this, but I have to be critical because I want to be biased, but the Pac-12 is so incredibly weak. Another stat I want to show is kind of breaking down the strength for each conference. The Pac-12 is below, is not even the top five, Power 5 conference. I think they're even behind the Mountain West and looking at the Power Evage conference. So that the Pac-12 is just having such a down year, and it's really these losses like Arizona and Washington that lost Division 2 schools. Colorado just blowing it against Texas A&M, a gimme game where their starting quarterback went down. It's just such a mess, such a bad year for the Pac-12. Even though UCLA, which was having a decent year, actually, yeah, I can't even say about UCLA. Just a bad year as a whole. At Pac-12, shame on you, man. Hope you guys get. There's still plenty of time to get some teams up there, but just looking so bad right now. Anyways, jumping on a conference that generally does well. Usually, I think the past 2 years, the Big Ten has been the top conference, but so far they're the second. And again, I should have that stat here in front of you guys. But let's jump into Maryland. Maryland, again, it really surprises me. I mean, it doesn't because they're not a big name school. I've been saying, I think, past 2 or 3 weeks that Maryland should be a top 25 team. And even though they lost to Iowa, Iowa being undefeated, Iowa being, at least in the VPI rankings, a number 3 ranked school. I know that they're number 3. Yep, we'll get into that later. But losing to 3rd ranked school, they dropped, but it wasn't a drastic drop. Everything here with Iowa is looking okay. Their strength schedule, again, middle of the road, ranked 66, and there's no real standout wins for them. Virginia, that has played an FCS school. Illinois, Kent State, just middle of the road teams with losing records. So, yeah, but those games have to amount to something. And if you win enough games, you have to ask yourself, how many mediocre wins are equivalent to one good win? How many in this case not a bad loss at all is equivalent to a really bad loss. you, that's where these numbers get a little tricky, but I still think Maryland should be ranked. So I feel this has been pretty accurate for the most part. We'll see how the season plays out, but yeah, Maryland in our top 25 for the Big Ten. Big Ten has a lot of teams in top 25. Texas Tech making an appearance. If you look at Texas Tech, again, middle of the road strength of schedule, and that's what you're seeing. As the season's been going on, the first few weeks you saw like really terrible strength of schedules, with the exception of a few teams, and as we're getting more and more into it, teams are starting to separate themselves, and the teams that have enough wins with mediocre strength of schedule starting to stand out a little more, and as we play more and more games, teams with better and better strength of schedule is going to start moving towards the top here. But you're already starting to see that now. So the strength of production against middle of the road. For those of you new to the channel, again, strength of production is a combination of total offense, total defense, determine a team's rank of their opponents and their opponents. But only one loss against a Texas team who I've been vouching, even though I do not like Steve Sarkisian, even though I don't respect the guy. The numbers are here, and look at their total offense. Not a bad total offense, top 40. The defense could use a little bit of help, but yeah, I would say on the back end top 25 rankings compared to let's look at some teams that are in the top 25 on the back end. Yeah, NC. Would you say NC State is that much better than like Texas Tech? Would you say Arizona State is that much better than that Texas Tech? Arizona State I don't even have on here. Um, there's a few schools on here that you would comparing them. You'd say it looks reasonable for Texas Tech to be on there. Now, I agree with that. I think that based off of this data, they should be a top 25 team. But let's jump into the Mountain West, a team that's really being overlooked here, and that is with Wyoming. What puts Wyoming, having just mentioning how they have a terrible strength of schedule, the worst strength of schedule apparently. Wow, I did not know that. And no, I'm sorry, it's worst strength of production, the least productive team. So they've had the easiest production in the third easiest strength of schedule. Well, it goes back to the question of how many wins are equivalent to a team with a stronger, stronger schedule. So, would a team that's 3-2 with a strong strength schedule be better than an undefeated team? That's what we're comparing. It's kind of a difficult concept to explain on here, but simply because they're undefeated, they've just kind of been slowly climbing up the ranks. I think that the other part of it, though, a lot of these teams have played 5 or sometimes even 6 games. And that really seems to be the benchmark for some of these teams that are really showing to have like pretty close ranking to what's out in the AP polls. But just the form of being undefeated is the only reason that Wyoming is on here. I think that you have one blemish and they're gonna fall, and they're gonna fall hard. So their biggest win coming against Northern Illinois. But wow, really surprised me on there. Again, I think it's just because they've only played 4 games. I think we need a little more data. And I think if they were to play 5 games, even if they win that 5th game, I don't think that they would be a top 25 team. But they're only being rewarded in this calculation because they're undefeated. Moving on to the first team that's probably going to make sense to you guys, and that is with San Diego State. San Diego State is ranked number 25, ranked number 24 here. And this, I think this adds a good argument of why Wyoming should be in there, because Wyoming has basically the same stats. You flip the script, Wyoming has the worst strength of production. Hey there, welcome to my college football stream. If there's any team you want to talk about, you let me know and we'll cover it. Oh wow, okay, you're one of those bots. Never mind. All right, you can go now. Unless you are a bot, and then that's just making a joke on that. But anyways, if you like college football, we're just kind of going over these rankings. I create a formula where I look at a team's strength of schedule, the strength of production, which is the total offense, total defense, calculate that all together, and calculate top 25 ranking every week. So that's what we're doing here. Feel free to jump in anytime that you want me to go over any specific team or dive into this. But yeah, man, just kind of going through here. So you caught me right as I talked about San Diego State. But anyways, going back into this. So as we were mentioning, Wyoming has, a really close strength of schedule and strength of production, 130 and 127 respectively, to San Diego State. Both teams have played are 4-0. Yet, in the AP polls, you're saying that San Diego State should be in the top 25, at number 25, right? Here we have a number 21, but Wyoming isn't recognized at all. So, clearly, you acknowledge both teams have very weak strength of schedules, playing against very weak opponents, but you are rewarding them for being undefeated. So, if you reward one, if the other one has a similar setup with their strength of schedule, strength production, you should reward the other. So that's why I think this actually worked out where you would be able to see that Wyoming should be a top 25 along with San Diego State. And I believe these are the only two Mountain West teams that are in the top 25. But yeah, so is San Diego State a little underrated? Maybe just a smidge. I don't think there's too much to say from being 25 to 21 on here. So, I think more or less, if I were to see them at top 20, in number 25 in there with the AP polls or even with the playoff committee, it wouldn't really bother me. I don't think there's. I think there's an argument for both, but yeah. Jumping into a team that I think nobody really looks at, and again, always jumps into the the power of having a big name school behind, on your logo. Western Michigan team nobody knows about, but let's check some of this out, and this might surprise you. So they've played Michigan, which we'll get jumped to later. Michigan is our top-ranked team in the VPI, so they are the best team according to these stats, right? They've look who else they beat. They've beaten Pittsburgh. San Diego State has a win record, right? You have Buffalo, mediocre, and they play Division II school. But compare that to some of the other teams that we've covered already. Look at this. Number 43 in strength of schedule. Better than Oregon, better than Maryland, better than Texas Tech, better than those two Mountain West schools I just mentioned. And the teams they are playing, and probably mostly comes from Michigan, but top 25 strength production. So these teams know how to throw the ball around, know how to run the ball, have great defenses. So to have them face that sort of strength production, to have a solid strength of schedule, to have a 4-1 record, considering all that, yeah, they should be a top 25 team. Nobody knows who they are. I don't even think most people even know Western Michigan plays as a Division I school, but they play in the MAC, ranked number 20 here, and I would say they're very underrated. And you know what? They would continue winning, and I don't think they'd ever be ranked. I think they could, win the next 3 weeks in a row, and I still don't think they'd be ranked. Just because nobody even knows they play Division I. Like, I mean, had I not been covering for this for a few years now, I don't think even I would know. But yeah, little sleeper team, and I totally believe, looking at these stats, very accurate. Another team that seems to be on here, I think they're finally being respected. Let's look at Coastal Carolina. Is Coastal Carolina in our top 20? Yes, they are. They are finally getting some respect. I think the past 2 years, 3 years I've done this, they haven't been looked at, but they are 5-0, and this is strictly, again, you're rewarding them for being undefeated. Identical strength of schedule and strength of production, both ranked 128. The teams they are playing, an FCS school, UMass, all teams with losing records, with the only exception UL Monroe, University of Louisiana Monroe, being 500. So simply being rewarded for being undefeated. Here's something really cool. I just saw this. Number 6 in total offense, number 9 in total defense. So you have to look at that and say two things. Are the teams that they're playing that bad that it's inflating these two stats? Or is it that they're so good in offense and defense that it's just absolutely demolishing the team's strength of production? Like they're just making, they're putting up so many yards or holding their team to so few points or yardage that it's affecting their opponents, and that's why the strength of production is so low. So a little give and take there, and honestly, when you look at this, I think it's always a little bit of both. I think that you have a team that's really good that's making the team's production drop, and you have other teams that are really bad that are boosting, the team's total offense, total defense. So yeah, I think if you're it's C, all the above. All right, jumping in to Ohio State. Now, if you're wondering, how did Ohio State win? Win against a solid team with Rutgers, right? And yet dropped so much in the rankings. And part of it has really nothing to do with Ohio State at all. These rankings aren't just looking at team at the time that they played them, but it's constantly updating. So as the teams that they beat start either winning more or losing more, it's going to affect their rankings. And a big part of it was Oregon's big drop. Oregon was the catalyst that was keeping Ohio State higher ranked here. And with Oregon losing to Stanford, it kind of causes a chain reaction where it causes Ohio State to drop. And Ohio State has every right to be in the top 25, strength of production. Solid, really, 42. Really good. Those opponents are putting up good numbers. Strength of schedule, amazing. Top 20, and you're looking, how are they top 20? Really, it is Oregon, but because Oregon, they lost to Oregon and Oregon drops, that loss looks even worse now. But everybody else that these teams are playing, because you're also looking at your opponents' strength, look at their schedule. These opponents, because they're playing playing the Big Ten, are helping boost Ohio State's strength of schedule. So even though you're saying, well, hold on, they played a few teams with, with losing records here, specifically with Tulsa and Akron. How are they have top 20 strength of schedule? Here's another thing to consider when it comes to strength of schedule. A lot of the majority of teams have played a Division II school. Ohio State hasn't. Remember, a Division II school is treated as the worst school in college football when I'm calculating this. So if they're the worst school and they haven't played one, Ohio State's being rewarded for that alone. So that's a big contributor as well why the strength schedule is so high. But yeah, look at some of these numbers. Total offense, number 2, just killing it out there. Defense gives a lot of work. Makes it really vulnerable, actually. I'm really surprised. 84. Wow, that's really surprising for a top 25 team. But yeah, Ohio State number 18. You might think that they're very underrated according to my calculation, but when we start looking at some of the teams ahead of them, I think you'll see that no, I think Ohio State shouldn't, as of now, be a top 25 team. It makes no sense to me that you would have Ohio State ranked ahead of Oregon when Oregon beat them. But the way this has worked out, yeah, I think that looking at these, the way things are playing out with Oregon having that bad loss against Stanford, you know what? I'm getting tongue-tied here. No, it would make sense. It would make sense during the AP polls. It would make sense. So I take that back. I apologize. Looking at this, it would make sense that Ohio State would be ranked ahead of Oregon in both the AP polls and here in the VPI formula. So that's taking place in both polls. That's interesting. Yeah, because the dynamics, Oregon would be Ohio State's only loss, but Stanford is a worse loss for Oregon than Oregon being a worse loss than Ohio State. I don't know. Yeah. Whew. Getting a little tongue-tied here. We are 24 minutes into this stream, and I'm not even halfway. All right. So Ohio State, last thing I'll say about them, are they overrated? Ooh, yeah. Yeah, they're pretty overrated. I mean, if I'm going to slam Oregon and drop them 25, I'm saying that Ohio State is, about 7 spots ahead of them. But, so I'll be a little more generous here with this calculation. Well, I'm not being generous. The numbers are doing it for me. I don't have any personal input into this, but yeah. Ohio State, number 18. Very interesting. Going into the most underrated conference college football every year, and a team they definitely, at least for the past few years, should have someone in the playoffs. Really surprised me that they haven't. SMU, 5-0. Again, just being rewarded for being undefeated. Terrible strength schedule, terrible strength production, but yeah, they are undefeated. Not one team that they've beat is has a winning record, and if you look at them in the AP polls, they are number 24. So I do expect that to change as the season goes on and they win a few more games. I think that they'll be more deserving of their spot. But yeah, this calculation, it's simply rewarding them for being undefeated. I think more data will definitely change that. Wow, here's another thing. We're just talking about Ohio State having this killer, offense ranked number 2, and then we have and a really really bad defense. Same thing with SMU, number 5 total offense, 100 defense. That is crazy, but it works. It's helping them win. Conference USA. Is there any other team for Conference USA on here? This might be the only team. University of Texas San Antonio. Um, Again, being rewarded for being undefeated. I don't think they're being looked at all. But again, if you're going to rank, SMU, if you're going to rank San Diego State, if you're going to rank Coastal Carolina, if you're going to rank all these teams, why wouldn't you have University of Texas San Antonio? Just doesn't have the name to it, but they are undefeated. They've played. They beat Illinois, powerhouse, a Power 5 school. UNLV simply rewarded for being undefeated. Not much more to say, but it is consistent with the AP polls. A lot of teams are in there being rewarded, even though they play like crap strength schedules. They are being rewarded, and this is continuing as well. So using that same logic, yeah, it should be top 25. Maybe not this high, but I think 2-3 more weeks that I think that'll change. Cincinnati, ooh, okay, this is an interesting one because they just had a huge win over Notre Dame, and it's a team that I'm always vouching for. Always saying this should be the top 25, always saying top 10, always saying this should be in the playoff push, right? Them and I think Memphis as well, right? So every year both teams are doing really well. And they had a huge win, but are they overrated? Yeah, unfortunately. And I would, oh God, I would really love to have Cincinnati, top 5 team. Yeah, they're ranked number 5 in the AP pools. But as much as they're deserving, just like I was talking about, University of Texas San Antonio, who has, maybe didn't have that signature win, but terrible schedule strength, and terrible strength of production. Yeah, Cincinnati also maybe not as bad, but really bad, and this is really their only standout win. I mean, everybody else they've played has had losing records, playing the Division II school. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you'd hang your hat on just one win to put you in the top 10, let alone top 5. So, it hurts me to say this, but Cincinnati, man, you are way, way overrated at this moment. And here's the good news is that they are playing other tough teams in their conference, with SMU, with like Memphis. So I think if they get a few of those wins, then we have a different conversation. But this point, you can't justify a top 5. There's another school that I will justify it with, but with this school, Cincinnati, I can't. And it's interesting is that you have on the flip side, even though Notre Dame lost them, and where's Notre Dame? Notre Dame dropped to number 14. Number 14 here matches. We this calculates both the same. The feeling is that Notre Dame has had a brutal strength of schedule, right? They, I know they faced Cincinnati, but also their strength of production. The teams they've played are putting up big numbers and have great defenses. So for them to be facing such a tough strength of schedule, and you might be thinking, what's so tough about Purdue? Well, Purdue's a pretty good team. They've we'll jump into Purdue a little bit later, but yeah, Purdue's a solid team. Wisconsin, the record really doesn't define how good they are because remember they lost against Michigan, they lost against Penn State, they lost against who else? Let's jump into the Big Ten real quick. Wisconsin. No, and then Notre Dame themselves. Duh. Shit, that was dumb of me. But yeah. Um, remember, guys, your strength. And here's the last thing on Wisconsin. Number one, strength of schedule. They have the toughest strength schedule, right, of anybody. So when you're looking at Notre Dame and you're saying, well, look at these teams with the record. Remember, you're looking at your opponents, and look how brutal we just covered Wisconsin. You know, some of these teams have played some brutal strength schedules. So when you have that, and you have Cincinnati, who's an undefeated team, as your only loss, yeah, it would make sense that you have a top 15 strength schedule. Again, the total offense and defense they're placing is brutal, which is probably what's affecting their Notre Dame's total offense and total defense. So, yeah, I think that this is spot on. I mean, it looks like the AP polls and one of the few examples where it's matched exactly. And going into covered in week 6, I don't think that's much of a coincidence anymore. I think that as the weeks go on, you're going to see a lot of these rankings being pretty close, if not identical, for a lot of these teams when matching it to the AP polls. So yeah, Notre Dame 14, like it. Wake Forest, they are ranked pretty low in the AP polls. Where are they ranked exactly? It was 24, 19. Actually, not too low. Only 6 spot difference. Terrible strength of schedule. Strength production is okay. Really no standout wins. I think Virginia's their only decent win. But everybody else, yeah, not too good. Yeah, just another case being rewarded for being undefeated. But, with some of the other teams that if you had Wake Forest that has a similar strength schedule, some of these other teams we've covered, and being top 25 school, yeah, it makes sense that to be, ranked a little higher here. So, Wake Forest, total offense 30. ACC is generally weak every year, and it's kind of funny how they're having a decent year. I think they're third ranked conference, 34th. Usually they're like number 5 or 6, but and it's not because of Clemson. You think that Clemson would be the tough team carrying them, but yeah, they're more balanced, and I think that's going to give Clemson a harder time. So I don't know who the ACC get into the playoffs. I don't know. With the ACC not having a clear front runner and the Big Ten, I think Oklahoma might lose a few games. Oklahoma's had some close calls. We'll jump into that, but yeah, I'm really curious how this play is going to shake out. One thing I'll say, I hope we do not have 2 SEC teams. I hate that stupid push they do every single year. It's so dumb, but man, we are finally at the halfway point because I'm starting to get tired. Woo! Texas. Oh, man. Texas. Again, I cannot stand Steve Sarkisian. I cannot stand... Ugh. Anyways, Texas, number 4 in strength of schedule. And very deserving. I mean, look at the teams they faced. They played Arkansas. They played Louisiana. I mean, Louisiana is 4-1. And hell, Louisiana, let's see. Louisiana plays in the MAC, right? No. Sunbelt. Yep. Louisiana climbing up the ranks. They've lost to Texas, but they are at number 35 here. So, so yeah, that win over Louisiana, pretty big for Texas. You wouldn't think it would be, but it ended up being a pretty big win for them. Playing Arkansas, even though they got like demolished by them. Playing Texas Tech, who we just covered, should be a top 25 team. Is Texas Tech in the top 25 in the AP? No. Surprised me that Texas is so low in the AP polls. I mean, if you're saying Arkansas is such a great team, right? Saying that Arkansas should be number what 13 on here, and yet you're not respecting Texas because they got demolished. Yeah, that makes no sense to me. Texas should be a lot higher. Very underrated, and I hate saying that. But yeah, there is no reason with that strength of schedule, that strength production, having that low of a ranking. So yeah, Texas very underrated. Don't know much more to say that. It's really surprising, really. Michigan State ranked number 11. They are ranked number 11 as well, identical. Strength schedule crap. Strength schedule again simply being. I'm tired of saying this over and over again. These teams are being rewarded. They're being rewarded in this calculation. They're being reported in the AP pools simply for being undefeated. Strength production, the teams are okay. Not much more to say. There really isn't anything stand out here with Michigan State really helping out the catalyst or really helping out with the Big Ten conference. But yeah, I really don't much to say. Haven't been following Michigan State, but they have they just keep winning. That's not much more of them. Arkansas. Now, here's an interesting thing to dive into because they have the second toughest strength of schedule, right behind Wisconsin. Right, so if Wisconsin is 1-3, and then you have Arkansas, who's 4-1, heck yeah, this should be a top 10 team. It really surprises me that you would drop them as much as you did because they dropped to number 13, 5 spots in the AP polls, and here they only dropped to number 10. And when Georgia, who is ranked number 2, and here the VPI rankings and the AP polls, let's put it this way, if you didn't punish Florida at all for losing to Alabama, but you're going to punish Arkansas as being that bad, doesn't that show a little bit of bias, for one school over the other, and Florida, again, isn't even in our top 25 here, and yet in the AP polls are number 20, so it really makes no sense why you would be so lenient towards Florida and not so much towards Arkansas. And again, I don't even like the SEC, but this makes no sense at all. Why? Why would it be such a discrepancy of how you treat one team over another? I just think it's simply the name. I mean, I don't know much about Arkansas's history, but it just sounds like they're just ranking Florida higher because it's Florida. They're not being as punished as much as as Arkansas. I don't know. It really baffles me. Two teams that baffle me, Texas and Arkansas. All right, going to the top 10. Power 3 here. Number 9, Oklahoma. Another close call with Oklahoma. Let's see where they're at. Number 6. I want to say Oklahoma's overrated, but they are undefeated, and you've been rewarding a lot of teams, for being undefeated. I'll still say they're overrated. I understand it's only 3 spots different, but look at the strength of schedule. That's garbage. 100. And I understand that both this poll and the AP polls reward you for being undefeated. But my gosh. I almost want to say my calculations are wrong, but I mean, that I feel strong about them. So yeah, but they're I think they're both pretty accurate. I think that if Oklahoma keeps winning, even though they're barely winning, and playing such a crap strength of schedule, look at that. Tulane, Division II school. Nebraska's not bad. Yeah, it was their biggest win against Kansas State. Strength of production's okay. Yeah, Oklahoma, I don't see them. I can't see them running the table. They still have Texas Tech. They still have Texas. Yeah, actually, do they play the Red River rival? I can never say that right. Did they play in the Red River rivalry this week? Let's see. I think it's this week, right? It is this week. It's the 9th. You know what? I think I'll make a prediction here. I think Texas takes it, man. I think when you have a team that's so underrated like Texas, and you have a team that's so overrated, even though I have them ranked still higher here, even though and, I do not trust. This comes from a guy who does not trust Steve Sarkisian, but I will call it. I think Texas takes Oklahoma. I think if there's enough there, let's look at Texas. Their total offense is good. Total defense. But you know what? Their total defense is probably bad because their strength of production is so high. Versus Oklahoma. And they're putting those numbers against it. You know what? Yeah, I will say it. Texas over Oklahoma. I'm calling it. Flip it. No, I knew it. I will never encourage gambling here. How have I been doing? I've been I've been doing great. I am struggling to function here. I just had a baby last week, so I'm just doing a quick stream to cover my college football stuff, man. Appreciate you dropping by. If you watch any college football, feel free to let me know, and we can talk about any team you want. But if now, I'm just getting angry over some of these rankings here. But yeah, man, just going over this database I built, calculate, you know, I don't know watch sports at all, but yeah, just some calculations I have it on this dashboard. So I'm just kind of going through this. But hey, man, thank you for stopping by. Okay, so yeah, Oklahoma overrated. I will say they're going to lose against Texas. Moving on again to the Big Ten, a conference who maybe I don't like, but I respect them. Yeah, 4 spots lower. Let's see something here. They have a big one against Auburn. I keep ripping Auburn because they're 4-1. Auburn can get into the top 25. They keep winning, and it's their Division II school. I think it's really hurting them. I think had they played just any other school, I think they might be a top 25 team. And Akron. And Georgia. No, you know what? You're playing 3 crap teams. No, you know what? No, screw that. Auburn is overrated. They are. I stand by that. Look at this. 3 crap schools you beat. You beat 1 really good school with LSU, right? And then you lost at Penn State. No, you know what? No. Auburn, way overrated. All right, sorry, I just had to address that. What the heck is Auburn in our top 25? Number 18. Get effed. Get out of here. No way. Sorry. I was picking Auburn like every week. And it's funny because I think the first year I did this, I was always rooting for Auburn because I thought they were really underrated. But this year, gosh dang it, that's infuriating. Yeah. So if you're wondering, well, they beat Auburn, then why is their straight schedule? It's because Auburn's numbers are way inflated. Auburn is not a good school. They're good. They're a good school. They're not 25. I'm sorry, not even close. So don't put too much weight on this win. I know it seems like a great win. Oh, it's the SEC. No, those numbers are inflated. F that. That's BS. That upsets me. And yeah, and you take everything away from that. You have Indiana, mediocre at best, Division II school, Ball State, Wisconsin again, a team that does way better than the record shows. And I would not be surprised if Wisconsin rallies. I think Badgers. I would not freak out there. They have a brutal strength. The worst strength schedule, number 1. So yeah, Penn State being rewarded for being undefeated. Are they overrated? Ooh, 4 spots. It's funny. I was just saying that about Oklahoma, how they are. I don't think Penn State's overrated. Number 4 ranking. That's fine. I think Penn State's fine. A little overrated, according to this. But, yeah, that upsets me. Okay, here we go. I hate the SEC, but we're going to talk about Kentucky because we need to talk about them. I've been saying for a few weeks now that Kentucky is being overlooked because they're Kentucky. What do you know about Kentucky other than their basketball? Nothing. I couldn't even name their head coach. I couldn't even name 1 player on their team, right? But I was saying, and it's funny because I wish I called it. The way I'm calling Texas over Oklahoma, I wish I would have called this game had I really thought about it. I just didn't cross my mind. But when I was mentioning how underrated Kentucky has been and how freaking overrated Florida has been, it, if had I noticed them playing, I would have called it, but I didn't. I just didn't, didn't cross my mind to look at that game. But I would have called it, and it does not surprise me at all that Kentucky beat them. Does Kentucky deserve to be a top 10 school? Absolutely. Yep. Well, no. Let's take that back. They don't. I don't know if they deserve to be a top 10 school. They deserve, according to these VPI rankings. I have my concerns because their strength schedule's mediocre and the strength production's mediocre. But I'll phrase it this way: they're more deserving than a lot of the SEC schools. You know, I'll say that. Who else in the SEC is in the top 10 outside of Alabama and Georgia? Huh? Only those two, and the people as well. Yeah, it's all right, man. If uh, if you don't watch college football, um, you're not missing out on much, anyways. But yeah, Kentucky. Yeah, you know what? I'll say this should be top 10 based off of this. I'll say it. Why not? If we're gonna reward Penn State for basically having this, similar record and strength production, yeah, Kentucky's just as deserving as Penn State. Oklahoma State, Big Ten Conference. Should they be ranked against Oklahoma? Yeah, they should be. I'm sorry. It's not even up for discussion. Let's look at this. Oklahoma, crap strength of schedule, right? 100, strength production 62. It's okay, right? Oklahoma State, 21 spots higher, still a mediocre strength of schedule, and an okay strength production. Oh, dude, on YouTube, don't even worry about it. I honestly just dump my videos on here after finish live streaming. So this is the platform I'm trying to focus on. I just kind of have that to. I use YouTube now. I used to focus on there, but I really just YouTube to grow this channel. So by you being here, like just follow me here. That's really where I want to be. So don't even worry about YouTube, man. Twitch is where it's at. This is where we're gonna focus on. But yeah, just doing this week to week because I love college football. Love jumping into this. But Oklahoma State, yeah, because if you're gonna put Oklahoma so freaking high, which again it just bothers me that Oklahoma's number 6. Oklahoma State should be number 6, and they're number 12. Yeah. By what logic? By what logic? When you have them playing Baylor, right? They've already beat Kansas State. Both teams beat Kansas State. Both teams beat Tulsa. Yeah, they're playing the same teams. So why would you put Oklahoma? Because you think they're a better school? The perception of the resume doesn't say that. Look at the all right, 77 total offense, 27 defense. What is Oklahoma? 43. Yeah. It averages out to about the same. Maybe a little bit higher for Oklahoma State, but still. It makes no sense when you both play the same schedule, practically, with a bigger win with Baylor, the differential, that you would have one ranked higher than the other. So no, if you could swap them, if you would say even though I have Oklahoma number 9 here, if you would swap 6 for 12, excuse me, who deserves to be here? Who? Oklahoma deserves more to be ranked number 12 than Oklahoma State deserves to be number 6. I think that Oklahoma State it should be ranked higher, and it makes no sense. All right, top 5. Ooh, this might piss off some people. Number 5 with Alabama's. Alabama's really had to climb up the ranks. They continue to win, and actually, I'm not gonna knock them. That was a solid win they had against Ole Miss. Remember, Ole Miss had the number 1 total offense going into this game. Wow, Ole Miss just dropped out of the top 25 rank. Let's jump into the SEC real quick. Let's jump back into the SEC. Ole Miss, my goodness, that one loss killed you. You know why, though? Because if you look at everything else, yeah, they beat Louisville, which is solid. but you've only beat Tulane in Division two school. So I mean, Ole Miss was struggling to be in the top 25 as is, but yeah. And where are they in the AP polls? I bet you they weren't even like punished because apparently you don't punish. Yeah, they dropped 5 spots. Yeah, again, how does it make sense that you didn't drop Florida but you dropped Ole? It frustrates me. That makes no sense. It pisses me off that Florida gets so much love. Anyways, Ole Miss, yeah, they had the number one total offense. Now dropped number three. Defense is okay. I hate Lane Kiffin, but it's fine. Um, Solid win there. But everything else, Florida. I mean, I don't like Florida, but they are. I think I have number 26. They're not in the top 25, but they're number 26. They're next in line. Um, they've really had to continue to win to move the ranks. Because look at their strength of schedule. It's pretty bad, actually. I mean, what's really keeping them in there is the teams they're playing. Probably a big part because of Ole Miss, but yeah, I'll say it again. Being rewarded simply because they're undefeated. So Ole Miss, being their only good win there. Will I say Alabama's overrated? Heck, yes, I will say that. Not based off their talent, because of who they played, but will they be number one by the time the playoff committee comes out with their polls? Yeah, possibly. I don't know. I want to say they're overrated just this week. I mean, they're overrated this week. Are they overrated? In the coming weeks, and their schedule gets tougher. Maybe, sure. Why not? Why not? All right. I'm going to argue why BYU should be ranked against Alabama. Here we go. BYU, number 23 strength of schedule. Tell me I'm wrong. 4-1 Arizona State, right? Arizona State, solid school. Even though I think I bashed them earlier. 3 wins against Power 5 schools. I know, I get it. Arizona is the worst school in college football. But guess what they're not? They're not a Division 2 school. Right, so no Division 2 schools. Like Alabama's just played. Would you say Arizona State is as good as Ole Miss? Yeah, I mean they're both very comparable. So if they both have a comparable win, the next comparable one you might say is like Florida, who would be comparable to them. Really nobody. So maybe their second win, biggest win, isn't as big as Alabama's second biggest win, but their worst game with Arizona is still better than Division 2 school. So, yeah, that is why BYU has such a strong strength of schedule, right? Number 23. And again, you're looking at your opponents and your opponents' opponents because you're like, well, they're comparable. Like, yeah, but their opponents of these opponents have been pretty tough for BYU. So that's what's helping that a lot. Strength production, these teams are putting up good numbers, solid numbers, number 39 in total offense, total defense combined. So, yes, BYU, and a team that I think is finally starting to get a little respect. I think they're finally top 10, right? Let's see. Yeah, number 10. Yeah, still underrated. And still have a lot of big games left ahead of them for Power 5 schools. BYU, the way things are shaking out, if Oklahoma loses a few games, which I think they will, if the ACC still has no clear front runner, there's going to be, if BYU runs the table, there's going to be a big argument on BYU being able to make the playoffs. And let's see what they have. They have Boise State, always a tough opponent, right? Then they have Baylor, who's 4-1. I understand they're not top 25. Still a good school. They play Washington State, which I know is struggling, but a Power 5 school. They play Virginia, who solid school again. I think they're 3-2 right now. I think it's like Georgia State and then another school that doesn't really matter. But then USC, which I may hate USC, but another Power 5 school, and they're starting to rack up some wins. That is a resume that I think gets you to the playoffs. Dude, I if there's ever a team that could do it, it could be the Cougs, man. It really could be. And they have the numbers there to back it up. I'm not saying predictions, but I will say that if they run the table, there's really no excuse why you wouldn't have BYU in the college football playoffs. Really, I mean they they really stacked up their schedule this year. So, and they're winning on top of that. They're really proving them they deserve to be there. So yes, they do deserve to be a top 10 school, and they especially deserve to be considered for the playoffs at this point in time. Only 5 games in, but we'll see. Plenty of tough games left. That's what's scary about them. Iowa. Iowa ranked number 3, a team that makes no sense to me in the sense that how do you... I understand they have a terrific defense, right? Defense wins championships. I get that. But look at this offense, dude. If they had a mediocre offense and this stellar defense, I would understand. But one of the worst offenses in college football. And they're winning. And again, Maryland, a school that I told you guys should be a top 25 school, very underrated. That was a big one. Not only was that a big one, that was their biggest win. You think it's Iowa State? No, my friends. Maryland, so far, is their biggest win. Colorado, Carl Durrell, God bless you. Kent State, Indiana, yeah. Look at that. Number 22 in strength of schedule. Number 17 in strength of production. Iowa, the AP polls in this match, identical. Iowa should be a top 3 school. Both polls prove that. Not much more to say. Other than, yeah. If you don't think my VPF rankings are very accurate, I would say there's about 4 or 5 teams that are identical in both the AP polls in here. So it's calculating the same thing. Maybe it's coincidence, but I mean, it would be hard to have so many teams within a range of, like, out of 130. When you think of a perspective of 130 schools, to have so many teams within 3 to 6 spots of where they are in the AP polls, yeah, it really shows that there isn't too big of a difference between what's being calculated here and the AP polls. I think that shows that there's some legitimacy to these rankings I'm calculating. Back to the SEC. Georgia, the only thing I got to say about them, massive win against Arkansas. Again, I have Arkansas here as our number 10 school, right? Still saying a little underrated. Georgia is exactly the same on both polls. I think they should be number 2 on here according to these rankings. They should be number 2 in the AP polls. Really can't argue. They're great top 10 strength of schedule. They're winning a really brutal schedule. They have the best defense in the nation. The fact that you have a top 10 strength schedule and you still have the top defense says a lot. I mean, that's pretty scary. Offense, kind of like the example I was mentioning with Iowa, who has a really good defense but a horrendous offense. Here you have an example of something that makes sense to me, and there's only 1 spot difference in rankings, but yeah, this is the resume, I believe, for a top 2-3 school. Really surprised me that I was in there with the resume they have, but yeah, not surprised at all with Georgia. Keep going, Bulldogs. Maybe I don't like the SEC, but I respect the hell out of your schedule. I mean, really, really good stuff. And to finish off this stream with number 1, Michigan. Man, talk about Michigan. I don't think they were even ranked to start the season. If they were, it was towards the bottom. Moving up another 5 spots, beating Wisconsin. This is the first time since like 2001, which is funny because I've seen that game a few years. And yeah, Wisconsin would always win, but it never hit me that they've gone through, like a 20-year drought. I mean, I know they don't play every year, but wow, that's insane to me. So, look at this, guys. I understand that Georgia has a top 10 strength schedule, and I understand that Michigan's a little bit worse, but it's the production. The teams that are playing are putting up good numbers, right? And I get it. They beat Wisconsin. Again, Wisconsin, that record does not show how good that team is, right? They maybe 1-3, but those losses include Penn State and Notre Dame as well, right? So with Wisconsin being, a way tougher team than you think, and then again, we're looking at their opponents and their opponents, right? So they're playing some pretty brutal teams. Rutgers, solid win. Northern Illinois, solid win. Western Michigan, a team that we said should be a top 25 team, right? 4-1, and then Washington, which don't embarrass me with Washington. When your worst win is against Washington, a Power 5 school. That says a lot. Very balanced attack between their defense and offense, right? So yeah, they're moving up the rankings, and I understand now. They're in top 10, fell at number 9. Very underrated. Big Ten, strong every year. Number 2 so far in overall conferences, but could move up higher. It would not surprise me if that happens. But yeah, guys, this is it for week 6. I am so excited. I got a little break to be able to come in here and cover this. A few people stopped by. Thank you for Papa Tin always for stopping by to say hello. Very sweet of you. And then 8-Ball Mike. 8-Ball Mike, are you following me, my friend? 8-Ball Mike, if you're not following me, get on here. Give me a follow, my friend. I know you want some college football action, so I'm here to give it to you. And anybody else, as I'm signing off here, make sure you check back week to week. We're always covering college football action. Again, mentioned a personal part of my life. Just had another baby, so my time is extremely limited. It was a lot for me to come in here just for an hour to talk to you guys. So this is probably the most you'll be able to see from me for at least a few months. But I will try to stay consistent to stream at least once a week to cover these college football rankings. So come here for your college football action. And again, we will have live discussions about any team you want me to break down. But that's it for today's stream. Thank you guys all for watching. Give me a follow. As you see, I have a little marker up there saying I'm trying to get to 50. Help me get there, people. Help me help you. But that's it for the Game Addicted Show. Thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you guys all next week. Good night, everybody.